lifting of the ban on alcohol sales is a sore point for some businesses. The recent looting and torchings of businesses in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng has left several companies shut indefinitely and business owners having to start from scratch. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni has given some lifeline by allocating 36 billion rand to support small businesses and people impacted by the unrests. Let's take a look.
While Monday was a good day for businesses in the alcohol industry across the country, for a number of businesses in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, this is their reality, trying to pick up the pieces from the recent unrest. Their businesses have been completely destroyed. At this bottle store in Cornwall, Soweto, from the storeroom to the actual shop, nothing was spared. Shelves are empty, the ceiling completely destroyed. The owner says he doesn't know when he will be able to have his business up and running again. Unable to speak on camera, he says he has been having sleepless nights since what happened and is absolutely devastated. More than 10 people are employed here. That's more than 10 livelihoods and that of their families that have been affected. And as the owner tries to rebuild what he once had and was proud of, he fears that he may have to go into debt to get it up and running again.
The Minister and his office have outlined the relief measures that will be implemented to help society recover from the disruptions of the past week and the ongoing pandemic. In a show of support for small businesses, the government has also allocated a portion of the relief funding to help those who were not insured, provided they were registered to do business.
We are reprioritizing the budgets of DTIC and the Small Business Development Department to the tune of some 2.3 billion in order to support small, medium and micro enterprises which have been affected. And this is critical because small, medium and micro enterprises are the so-called hidden champions of any economy. And these are critical even as far as promoting the participation of the hitherto discriminated part of our population.
But one economist is not convinced that these interventions will be enough for the recovery South Africa's economy requires.
The current measures that have been proposed are not sufficient, would argue. But of course, the proof will be in the pudding. It will be interesting to see how this new money, as the National Treasury has emphasized, will play out in the medium-term budget policy statement, given that the National Treasury has said time and time again that the fiscal framework remains. So it will be interesting to see how these measures are laid out in the budget itself.
Anglo American Platinum has had a bumper first half of the year. The business, which is one of the leading platinum group metal miners, delivered record earnings and cash. It has also declared its highest dividend in company history, something unions will undoubtedly be making note of as the company heads into wage negotiations. Anglo Platinum has 30,000 employees across its business, and although production was temporarily halted during the lockdown level 5, the company, which is now fully operational, says it's rolling out its vaccination program for staff.
Meanwhile, Newzroom Afrika's business editor, Xolani Mpanjwa, caught up with SATU General Secretary Mugwena Maluleke on the possible implications of allowing cash-strapped workers to access a portion of their pensions to pay off debt.
On whether or not to allow workers to access a portion of their pension fund to weather the difficult financial storm brought on by COVID-19 reached a head this week. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni seems to be of the view that workers should be allowed to access their pension fund, but he has also warned that this should be approached in a responsible manner. We are now joined by the General Secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, Mr. Mugwena Maluleke, who also sits on the Public Investment Corporation board on behalf of workers and the unions. Thank you very much, Mr. Maluleke, for joining us. What is your view as SATU regarding this debate on allowing workers, to access their, funding when it comes to their pensions? Obviously, you are sitting in a very, unique position as a unionist who's also a board member of the biggest pension fund in Africa.
I am fully aware of this particular debate and its origin, basically, as it was necessitated by the loss of income by many workers in the country during the COVID-19 crisis, especially the hard lockdown in 2020. This debate then began to say, how do we ensure that workers can have access to their savings, if it's a portion, in order to address the issue of loss of income, because some have taken salary cuts and some have lost their jobs and therefore might be assisted. But basically, it was meant for those who would still be remaining in employment and not really cashing in their pension, but at least taking a portion of that. So our view has been that it has both advantages and disadvantages. But it is very critical that indeed during any crisis, especially of this particular magnitude, where people have lost income in the form of taking half a salary or two-thirds of the salary has been taken away, you then have to address that particular situation by allowing a portion of, let's say, a 30% of their savings to be given as a loan or as access in a form of a relief for that particular worker, so that they are then able to deal with the financial constraints that they are faced with, because we have seen how hard the workers has been hit by the pandemic, and therefore we say the future is not known by any other person, how the pandemic is going to affect our economy, and therefore it's better if the law is being changed so that it accommodates the possibility that at any given point in time, when a worker experiences such financial need, be able to access the 30% of their savings and so forth, but in a very responsible manner and not just using it for the sake of using it. And that's one of the downside of accessing your pension, but we can talk about it as we debate and continue. What are the downside of that and what are the advantages of doing that and so forth, and we can look at that. But our view is that it's a debate that we need to approach it with sensitivity, but and providing leadership in this particular debate, Bukolani, so that it is understood by the workers that it is as a result of a crisis, and therefore it is not that you then have to use all your savings and find yourself in a crisis again because you were not able to use it for the purpose that it has been meant for you to use it. It is to relieve you of this particular financial crisis you find yourself at that moment.
About what you just spoke about in terms of with the National Treasury saying that the workers should be allowed to actually access, to have access to a third of their, pension fund, which is a lot of money. Aren't we risking, the futures of the workers themselves who will need this money, when they reach retirement? Because as we know right now, South Africa is not known to be one of the, best countries when it comes to saving as it is.
I want to agree with you, Bukolani, that we are not a saving nation. We are living from hand to mouth from time to time, and this has got a serious implication. If you're the small saving that you have put aside, you are going to use it, and then when you need it most, it's not there. So yes, This is one of the downsides that I think the Treasury is warning about, that yes, it's a debate that we must enter into. There's a need for that. And from the unions per se is that yes, this debate is necessary. However, the downside of it is that you retire with no benefit at all if you have not been able to use it properly, but also if you are to access that 1/3. I mean, 1/3 is a lot of money, but obviously depending on how much savings you are, whether it's a defined benefit or you are in a defined contribution fund. So both ways have got different implication and different disadvantages when you look at it at the end of the day. But critically, it is that it must go hand in hand with the financial literacy.
When you say financial literacy, you mean that there has to be some work that is done before this is allowed to actually educate workers on where and how the money can be used. What exactly would you like to see on that front?
Well, Colin, that is what we're trying to say. It is that you need to, up front, to educate the people, to then say, if you have not suffered any income, loss of income, why would you risk taking the money just to go and buy a car? Is that an investment? Because buying a car is not an asset. It's not an investment. It's a liability. And that in itself is that you are going to have to be dealing with a car in terms of maintenance, and at the same time, you have taken 1/3 of your money that you are saving for the future that is not there. You're likely to retire with a car, but not with money to be able to take care of your family or take care of yourself when you need it the most in terms of the health issues, because when you grow and you mature as a person, you begin to be experiencing more health problems. So financial literacy would lead to a situation where even if you were to be tempted to say, I want to renovate my house, therefore I'm going to take 1/3, you realize, no, I don't need it, because in the next 7 years, my children may be leaving this house. So why do I have to extend the house now, even if in 7 years they are going to be leaving? Rather, let me not do it, because it is not a need. It is something that you just wanted to do it just to satisfy your dad. So it's not a need. A need might be that your child is being given the last letter to say, if you don't pay the fees at your university, you are going to be expelled from the university. That is a need, and then you can use it for that. If you are not able to pay your liabilities because you have been, temporarily laid off, and therefore you need that particular access, there is a need because you have got obligations that you have got to meet and so forth. So
let's recap stories reflecting the political landscape in the country and stories from the courts when we return. Stay tuned. The IEC approaches the courts in seeking to implement former Deputy Chief Justice Dekang Moseneke's recommendations to postpone the local government elections. Municipalities continue to crumble. We now take you to the northwest, where political factions have literally turned one municipality into a battlefield.
A dire state of affairs, ranging from, among others, party political infighting, financial crisis, and a lack of service delivery. PTC. The ANC has been battling the problem of parallel structures which are believed to be causing instability. And with all these challenges, punitive measures have been taken. The party says decisions have already been taken to dissolve some municipalities that are experiencing serious challenges.
We have interacted with government at the level of the party to share with them their understanding on these matters. We have came to the same conclusion that clearly we have a problem in the Northwest across all these municipalities that have problems. And the government has resolved that they are going to intervene according to the challenges confronting these municipalities. Some of them are municipalities that are going to be dissolved. Some of them will go under 139B, and some of them will go under 145, which is more on the financial support and putting up financial systems in place.
The Department of Local Government will be implementing the decisions soon, this after engaging the relevant stakeholders.
The decision by the Cabinet to dissolve 5 or 6 or so of our municipalities is most welcome. Nevertheless, the province would also look into other municipalities that are not part of what the cabinet has resolved on, and make a decision, decide on its posture. JB Max, Madibeng and Dr. Ruskhomutsimun Party would remain under Section 101B.
Municipal workers' unions have welcomed the decision with hope to see improvements.
We are waiting for a formal communique from relevant department and the ANC lead government. But as a union, up until we get that clear communique in terms of what is happening, we'll heartedly support a decision that has been taken by those people. Because even the community are aware that our members are being suffocated, are being assaulted, and their issues are not being addressed because of the same 5 municipalities that have been alluded there. And we are saying the other municipalities that have been put under Section 139(1)B, that extension, we support it. Other municipalities that are going to put under MFMA in terms of supporting support and misusing of funds, we support them. And we will wait for a formal communique from EXCO or from the ANC, and we will support that decision if it's true.
We believe that is the correct decision because we have realized that there is lack of governance, and also the current situation in those municipalities. What we have experienced is that most of our members, third-party deductions are not paid in those municipalities. The other thing is that what we have experienced in some of those municipalities, the violence that has been taking place, we want to believe their disbandment will bring stability in those municipalities.
Political analyst Professor Andre Duvenage says this is not going to be an easy task for the ANC in the province, which has serious challenges of its own.
Need strong decisions. And I don't think the provincial government has other choices than to take strong decisions. Now, what will happen if they take strong decisions? We are going to see resistance. And there will be resistance against any decision to clean up this mess. But I think from a pure sound governance perspective, it should have been done already a long time ago. And what we need is leadership. And hopefully the government in Northwest can take the leadership, take the process forward. And
municipalities set to be dissolved include Ditsobotla, Ketleng Refir, Chwaying, Ramotsirimuilwa, and Ratlou local municipalities. Political squabbles are turning ugly at the Chwaying local municipality in Delareyville. 2 factions of the ruling party, ANC, have turned the municipality into a battlefield. An employee belonging to one faction was brutally assaulted by the security officials and bouncers last Thursday. This municipality has 2 mayors, 2 CFOs, and 2 municipal managers fighting for legitimacy. The situation has been ensuing for some time now, but workers' unions concerned believe the dissolution of the municipal council is the only solution left.
The other thing that is disturbing and what motivates us to call for the disbandment of the municipality is the situation where you find officials and some councillors using taxpayers' money to go to an extent of interdicting the MEC, interdicting the premier, interdicting the minister and the president. So basically this is lawlessness. And we can't accept this as Imatu.
Whether they dissolve municipality or they put Section 139(1)B, it's not our matter. What is important is that workers must get what is due to them in terms of their pension fund, their overtime, their benefits, because that is the issue that we are struggling to resolve in this municipality for more than 3 years.
The ruling party, ANC, has also called on the responsible government departments to handle the matter.
We call on both the provincial and national government to expeditiously intervene in the Chwaying local municipality in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic. We implore on these 2 spheres of government to take appropriate steps as directed by the Constitution.
The municipality has allegedly failed to pay employees third parties, including medical aid, for months now. The Provincial Department of Local Government says it has deployed a team for intervention.
We are confident that we will be able to move in with the multiple national implementing agencies for the purposes of service delivery, and that we will first and foremost make sure that the communities are saved.
With all this happening, the greatest bend is felt by the communities due to lack of service delivery. 6 people have since been arrested for assault after an employee was attacked during an altercation on Thursday.
To the courts, there was jubilation right here at the Randburg Magistrates Court as former radio DJ Newzroom Nkunu was granted bail of 2,000 rand. 2 days of court proceedings and video after video being played. At the end, it's a small victory for entertainer Newzroom Nkunu, well, at least for now. On Wednesday, the National Prosecuting Authority played videos of Nkunu in an attempt to prove that he incited the public violence that left devastation in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Shopping centers were looted and several buildings torched, resulting in damages amounting to billions of rands. Nkunu had traveled to Johannesburg from KwaZulu-Natal and in a video posted by himself on social media is heard calling for the release of former President Jacob Zuma. The state also argued that Nkunu was a flight risk and had access to money that would allow him to evade trial. The state's attorney explained that he had learned that Nkunu left Johannesburg on a private jet to KwaZulu-Natal after hearing that police were behind him. In response, Nkunu's legal team argued that he has emotional ties to South Africa, given that he has 3 wives and 12 children. His legal team also played a video where Nkunu could be heard condemning the public violence. In handing down judgment, the court said the state failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt why Nkunu should not be granted bail. It stated that there was no way in evidence of the state where Nkunu could be heard inciting violence. The court added that his family situation means he cannot just skip the country. The magistrate described Nkunu as a man who is passionate about former President Jacob Zuma and his release and would not just leave. A hero's welcome outside the Randburg Magistrates Court from supporters who had been camping outside in song.
Fighting for justice, and we got arrested by the people abaphula umthetho. Umthetho wakubona ukuthi khaba kwethu asifanele ukuthi amaqala sibele wona sibe
Nkunu's bail conditions include handing over his travel documents. He is barred from hosting gatherings and posting views that can be interpreted as propaganda on social media.
The state says the investigation is still at an early stage and there will be surprises along the way. The court has postponed the matter to the 21st of October to allow the state more time to investigate thoroughly.
Since the start of the civil unrest more than 2 weeks ago, 110 people have been murdered within the eThekwini metro. This includes 38 people murdered in Phoenix, a suburb at the center of hate crime allegations.
Incidents of the past where we saw the indiscriminate killing of Africans by a group of vigilantes of Indian origin is what brought us here. And the message that we want to underline is that that must not be interpreted to mean that everyone of Indian origin is a racist. As you can see here, we have a lot of brothers and sisters of Indian origin also standing against what we can define as senseless, racial motivated killing. But
no one can take the law into their own arms, into their own hands. We are saying that justice must be done for all our people. We are saying those that created mayhem and lawlessness must be dealt with by the law. The police and the security forces must do their job. We are saying that people that were engaged in killings must be held accountable for what they have done.
Several political parties camped outside the Verila Magistrates Court on Friday, joining the no-bail demonstrations.
Those are racist killers. Those were responsible for butchering our people like animals like that. Must be brought to justice. So we hope and appeal that the police, working together with the prosecuting authorities, they must make sure that justice is done. And
for us to survive in this country, we need to pursue and advocate peaceful coexistence, multiculturalism, because this South Africa is for all of us. If it burns down, it burns down for all of us. Nobody is going to survive. So
these suspects are facing murder charges, and their matter has been adjourned to 3rd August for a formal bail application. 9 other suspects have also appeared separately at this court, facing charges ranging from attempted murder to the possession of unlicensed firearms and illegal ammunition to contravening the SERA Act, which deals with private security firms. Their matters have also been postponed for a formal bail application, with the suspects expected to appear at a specialized court set up to deal with cases of unrest. Meanwhile, the ANC Youth League left this message for children who witnessed the violence.
And take leadership in this country wherever they are, whether they're in arts, whether they're in politics, whether they're in business, wherever young people are. Young people need to unite and understand that there is no one who's going to fight for them, there is no one who's going to preserve their future except them.
And that's all we had for you on Your Week in 60 Seconds. Stay tuned to Newzroom Afrika, channel 405, our news, our views.
Hey, and welcome to Your Week in 60 Seconds with me, Olebogeng Kgosilentswe. We start with the reopening of schools as learners returned for the 3rd term. In Gauteng, Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi was pleased with how the first day went after visiting a few schools on Monday. But it would be short-lived as racial tensions simmered here at Cornwall Hill College in Pretoria. Learners and parents protested against alleged racism and a lack of transformation and diversity at the institution, prompting investigations by the Human Rights Commission. And for a particular school in the northwest, learning and teaching is yet to resume.
The first day of school in Gauteng went well, with all COVID-19 protocols being followed. However, there are some challenges that still need to be ironed out.
The anxiety of parents and learners themselves. Secondly, in the middle of winter, the infrastructure sometimes doesn't accommodate learners comfortably, so we need to work with that. Thirdly is the return of educators, because to us was very key. We took a conscious decision to vaccinate the sector, especially the educators. So in Gauteng, I think 93%, hopefully the remaining 7% will be accommodated at public vaccination site.
The MEC began his monitoring visits at Eureka Secondary School in Springs, where he says there are concerns there too.
The school is one of those that are performing badly in our province. Actually, it was at the bottom of our public schools. And you can see it's a former model C school, so we've put huge investment to turn around the corner, because if we don't have, we have a facility of this magnitude that is not performing well, we are then overburdening other facilities around the area.
It's issues like these that are of concern to the MEC and the Education Department. And this school is not spared from infrastructural damage.
We have had a challenge with the ablution block. It's sinking. This is a dolomite area. We have had to close it because it was posing a risk to learners.
It may seem like there are a lot of issues that need to be sorted out as the 3rd term starts. But for these learners, they are eager to get some schooling done.
My hair started falling out. It was like a very stressful time because you feel like you're dealing with this institution that is literally oppressing you and you don't know how to get out of it.
Those are some of the effects felt by learners at Cornwall Hill College in Irene. Parents and learners at the school say they've had enough of the alleged racism and lack of transformation.
Our kids are being crucified because of just the general perceptions that white people have, or some white people have, about our black children. And we're dealing with those issues, and we're not going to renege. We're not going to step back, because we feel very strongly that this management and this leadership must actually be held accountable for all these atrocities.
I think it needs to be transformation at a whole number of levels. So we need to look at the leadership and the board and the school management. We need to look at diversifying the workforce. We also need to diversify the student body, the learners. We have black South Africans sitting at about 23-24% at every phase right now, and that needs to change.
It has been 2 months since the protest action here at Cornwall Hill College. Parents say nothing has changed, and the Human Rights Commission has now stepped in.
And we've then decided to issue a call for submissions for all those who may have information which may aid our investigation to come forward to make their written submissions to the Commission. We'll also give an opportunity to also make oral submissions so that they can recount their lived experiences.
But what about those who are still at the school?
When this institution feels like it's against you, you have to really have that inner confidence in yourself and be sure that you can trust yourself.
The school's management says they will cooperate with the Commission's investigation.
Madoda Primary School building accommodates approximately over 1,900 learners. The school is operating with 7 classes to accommodate 2 schools, including Butilo Primary, which has over 500 learners. In 2019, 2 classrooms got burnt, allegedly due to an electrical fault. The incident repeated in March last year, now at the time ravaging 6 classrooms. This is one of the 8 classes that were razed to the ground, allegedly due to an electrical fault. A matter that was reported to both the Department of Education and the police to investigate. Promises were made, allegedly by the Provincial Department of Education, to assist with mobile classrooms. But to date, nothing has been done.
The MEC was here this year March, making promises. All the relevant officials, they came and visit here, but they don't do anything. I don't know whether the MEC was here to drink tea or what, but unfortunately there's nothing has done. That is why the SGBs meet together and say enough is enough. We are talking about the lives of the young ones here.
George Madoda Primary shares classes with Butilo Primary School, which relocated to the area last year. Absent.
12. And how about 12? Our challenge school is 3 hours, and we live in the Havana. Push a good result. Me have a sheba. I want to go to 3 hours in 12 o'clock.
On the other hand, the Provincial Department of Education has lambasted the move of halting learning. They insist the classrooms were burnt during service delivery protests, contrary to what the SGB stipulates.
It's about 3 blocks of classrooms that were burnt. It's not an electrical fault that burnt 3 blocks at that particular school. It was burnt during the protest within the area. So it's not the issue of it's an electrical fault. As a department, we have started already to provide the school with mobile classrooms. To date now, there's 1 mobile classroom that have arrived at the school.
The department says it is still waiting for the supplier to deliver, as the mobile classrooms have already been purchased. For
a month quiet here on the grounds of the Arlington Secondary School in Phoenix. Assembly has already begun, and you can see the children behind me. They're actually listening to members of the KwaZulu-Natal Education Department, including as well as members of NAPTOSA and SATU, the South African Democratic Teachers Union, that are here to address them. The provincial government is visiting 3 schools today. This is the first school where KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Education, Gwazi Mshengu, has been speaking to some of the heads of education in this specific district here around the Phoenix and surrounding areas, discussing, of course, the violence that unfolded in this specific area over the past 2 weeks, where we saw racial profiling happening. Now, their task, they say, is to speak to children who are going to schools, returning to schools, to try and find some sort of social cohesion within the schooling system. Here, we've just heard SATU and APTOSA members tell the children that if they find some of their colleagues or their friends in their classrooms are having trouble right now dealing with the crisis that we are seeing over the past 2 months, to alert their teachers or their parents and try and help each other. Really the message on the ground is to try and get the pupils here to understand what has happened to them, what has happened to their surroundings over the past 2 weeks. The KwaZulu-Natal Education MEC is about to address them as well, so we want to...
Also another very specific issue that brought us, particularly here in the area of Phoenix, which I'm sure all of you will know about, because your parents and some of you have been calling the department to say what is happening. Is it safe to go back to school? Are we safe? Are we going to go back home safe? And things like that. And that fear is not without any basis. It's a fear that has been justified or that is justified. And that is why we are here today and visiting a number of schools in this area. Tomorrow we'll be going to other areas so that we assure you that we are in safe hands. To assure you that the state, the government, has done everything possible to ensure your safety as you commute from home to school and back home. We want you not only to feel safe, but also to indeed see that we are safe. I'm sure most of you have seen a number of policemen around the school and in the streets, including members of the South African National Defence Force, because we had to make sure, working together with the law enforcement agencies, that there is no disturbance when we reopen our schools. Now, having said that, and I'm sure that by the end of the day you'll also be quite comfortable that it is indeed safe to be in school. But having said that, we need to confront what actually led to the senseless killings of innocent people here in Phoenix, in Chatsworth, and in Pietermaritzburg, not there. And that is racism. I don't buy any other story except to say the people who were killed on the basis of their skin color, because they are black. And if we don't confront these things and call them by their names, we'll look for solutions that are not a perfect match to the problems that we are facing. We are facing a demon of racism.
When we return, we focus on the vaccination drive across the country.